I'm excited to have back on the show Mary Garnett Edwards. She's a Canadian singer-songwriter, and she's here to talk about her latest album, White Lightning. And she's also an author, and she makes lovely jewelry, which I'm wearing her earrings on the show. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'm so excited. And so congratulations on your debut album. This is your first album, correct?
Well, I have done other recordings about 28 years ago. I did First Stone, Garnett Edwards First Stone, with my husband, Doug Edwards. My husband, Doug Edwards, wrote the music for Wildflower, one of Canada's most recorded songs, done with Skylark. And BJ Cook and David Foster were in that band. BJ Cook was one of Canada's great singers. And yeah, he heard me sing at a wedding, and that's how I met him. And I sang my song, Tongue on Tongue, and he right away got up and he was kind of like, wow, who is that girl? And he came over to me and he goes, you don't even need a microphone. You've got a full band and it's you, I can hear. He said, you got a big voice, girl. And I said, thank you. And he goes, you've got a mild little personality, but you've got a big voice. So that kind of shocked him. And I gave him my phone number. He asked me for it. And he phoned me that night. I came home from the wedding. It was for Ken McBride's wedding. He was marrying Lorna, his wife. And we were really good friends. And Ken had made some recordings for me. He was a guitar player and he was the guitar, like a guitar doctor. He made incredible guitars and fixed people's guitars.
Wow.
And yeah, from there, Doug called me that night and he said, I want to come and get you tomorrow and take you to lunch. And he came on a motorbike, a special
Motorbike.
edition Harley Davidson. And he pulls up and it was like an antique looking motorbike. It was beige and burgundy with big black saddlebags with fringe and Mr. Attitude. And I look at this thing and I'm thinking, I've got a mini skirt on here, like I was trying to be sexy. And I go, Doug, can you wait a minute? I'm going to go inside the house and put some pants on. So I ditch into my house really fast, past my dogs, throw on some blue jeans, and then go back outside. I had boots. And I had a little leather coat, thank God. It was a little bit groovy, and I put that on. And we drove into the sunset toward Kitts Beach. And he took me to a nice little place, and we sat there. And God, it almost brings tears to my eyes. I loved him so much. And we started from that moment making music together, but he always wanted to do my songs. He said, you've written some really good songs. They have to be recorded, Mary. And so when we were having lunch that day, I was singing him my songs, you know?
Oh.
I'd sing him a little tune. I guess it's the time of year. All the birds disappear. All the leaves turn gold. It's so quiet here. And he'd go, oh my God, we have to record. So we did. And I moved in with him. And normally I wouldn't have moved in with somebody fast. But I did. I moved in. I felt so comfortable with him. And we stayed together for 28 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I
Yeah.
mean, such great memories. Have you ever thought of writing a book?
Well, at some point I will. I think coming down the road, I'm working on a slideshow for myself for a show a story that I wrote that I thought, well, it'll never probably get made into a movie. So I'll make my own, but I'll do it in a slideshow with pictures and just my story. So I'm
Oh,
doing that right now. But this week I'm recording another 4 songs for my CD, my second CD that I think
Mm.
you'll love too. I'm going to do that song that I just sang you. It's a beautiful song, and some kind of heavier songs, and
Mhm.
some kind of weird songs that I
Where-
thought would do really well. Yeah.
Oh goodness. Like, where do you get your inspiration to write? Like, you've
I
always loved
just sit
music.
down and stuff just actually comes to me. Or
Mm.
sometimes it was like last night, um, just words will come to me. Like just out of the blue, I'll be sitting there and words will come to me. I just wrote a song while Sean and I were watching a show, and I got bored with the show because I get bored with TV sometimes or movies. And a song about a prostitute came to me, and I wrote it all down, and there it was, and it took me about 15 minutes
15
to write
minutes.
it, and I just sat there and I wrote it, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful song. It's sad,
Mhm.
you know, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's sad.
But it's like it's life, right? It's
Yeah.
experiences is but you've been writing since you were very young, and
Yes.
you're originally from Edmonton, Mary?
Yeah, I'm originally from Edmonton. I come from a really big family of 7 of us. And yeah, and I started singing really young. I was lucky because a man by the name of Charlie Littlewood took an interest that I could sing. I would stand up on a car. My dad had old wrecks in the backyard, and I would stand on the old wreck and twist the antenna and use it as a microphone. And then the neighbors would yell out their windows, "Shut up!" But I used to sing perfect on key. And my teacher in school, my music teacher, figured that out, that I could just stand up in class and sing a song, you know?
Yes. I mean, your voice is very powerful. It's I like it's raspy. It reminds like a little bit Kim Carnes. It's very unique. And did you take any singing lessons?
No, and I never practiced before I sing either. I'm awful that way. I'm supposed to be getting ready to go do my first like down tracks right now so that the band has something to play with in the studio. And I'm supposed to be rehearsing and everything. And I don't. I just get in there and punch it out of the ballpark. I never get sore. And I just sing. I've just always sang.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, Mary, do you come from a family of musicians?
I think that my sister Dale had a good voice, and her and I would do harmonies
Hmm.
together. And I think my mother could sing too. And I know for sure that my dad sang in a choir when he was a little boy. So I
Hmm.
know I've inherited that. Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, like, you began your singing career in coffee shops. Is that correct?
Yes. And
Yeah.
my first coffee shop was Edmonton at the Barricade Coffee House at those get up nights. And one night when I got up, I went there 3 times only because I was really a little kid.
Hmm.
And some people were concerned after many times of me getting up. And they were like, why is that kid up this late at night? And yeah, so my mom got a little bit concerned, went, okay, well, we got to cool it here because I was, in there. And Bruce Coburn came up to me and said, wow, Mary, you've got quite a voice for a little kid. You've got a really big voice. And I love your little song that you wrote. I got up and did 2 little songs that I wrote. Yeah.
Wow. And can you sing the
In 1967, those men marched down those streets with their uniforms and their guns on their shoulders.
Wow.
I wrote that when I was a little kid.
So my goodness. Like, and so Mary, tell us, was there a pivotal moment that you knew that this was your calling, if you will?
Oh, I knew when I was a little kid I was supposed to be a singer. And
Mm,
I tried many times, but nothing ever clicked. I would go to somebody in the music industry and they'd go, no, no, and I'd go, oh, okay, okay. And
mm,
then by the time I met my husband, um, the statement there when we put out Garnett Edwards First Stone was that I was too old.
mm.
And I think, that was really weird for me that I was too old. And my husband said, well, why would that be, Mary? And
Ah,
it sort of broke his heart because he so loved to hear me sing. He would get people, he would record people in our basement. And when they would go home, he'd have to do leads and stuff on there and bass and piano on their tracks. So
mm.
he would say, Mary, here's the words. Could you just come down? And I'd hear them singing it all day. So I'd know it because I'd be up making stuff and doing stuff and artsy, painting and making
Oh,
goofy things and earrings and stuff. But I'd hear those tracks through the floor. And so he'd say, Mary, could you come down and sing it for me so I could put some balls on this guitar? It's a little too mellow, So I'd get the words and we'd take those lead vocals out. Dad would pull them down and I'd sing those lead tracks and then Dad would go bow, 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 you know and there would be the track, and he said, Mary, it was because of you that that track is as good as it is because you
yeah.
killed on that track, honey.
Wow. I mean,
So,
and the word's too old, but look, no, this is your
well,
album.
and it was like I was fighting it the whole years. And then in my head, I just started hearing my songs again. And it was especially White Lightning. I heard White Lightning in my head over and over again. I'd be in traffic and I'd start singing it. And I'd sing White Lightning. And I'd think, Mary, you can sing. You're a singer, Mary. Why aren't you singing? And
Mm,
I'd be, uh, in the car and I'd burst into tears, Christine. I would start crying. I would think, Mary, what are you doing? Why are you making jewelry and stuff when you could be doing something real? And and that's part of you. You have something to express to people. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can
mm,
still sing, Mary. And I would get emotional over it. And the first tracks I heard that came out of the studio, I would get up at night and I would sit there by myself and I would just start weeping. It was like I had this huge release to go through. You know,
mm,
I had a big release that I really
mm.
needed to express myself and I hadn't. It's like having to say something and not ever being able to say it. And
Wow.
so and when I heard Grifter, I just cried my eyes out. And when I heard White Lightning, I cried my eyes out. I was just so relieved. And I
Yeah.
thought, it doesn't matter if no one ever hears it. It doesn't matter. At least I know in myself, that I'm a singer.
Yes. And a songwriter. And
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
and it was in well, driving in the car that was the time it clicked, or it was a little voice saying, you are a singer, you are, why aren't you putting this album out? And I'm so excited for you. And like, what has the feedback been like? Because it was released in
Well,
2019.
I have Eric Alper that's really been helping me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been wonderful. And he's a dog lover. And for that alone, I adore him. you know and I actually this week in the last week, I guess, sent him a story about a little dog that I rehabilitated and got walking. He was a biter and he'd been beaten up quite bad. He came from Iran and he was
Yeah.
paralyzed, and I took him
Oh,
for a bunch of MRIs. I ended up spending about 10 grand on doctors that told me he's going to be permanently paralyzed. And one day I looked at the little dog and I could tell this dog hates not walking. That dog has walked before. He knows what it's like to walk, and he's pissed. You know, he is. And he would bite me really hard, quite viciously. And I just moved forward with him, and I got a rag. My girlfriend taught me to cut the sheet, a long sheet, so I wouldn't have to bend my back over, and I could just stand up upright, and I would hold him with the sheet, and we'd walk, and I'd make sure his feet were touching the ground. And as soon as he'd get tired, I'd put him in his buggy, which he was very possessive of. You couldn't touch his buggy. God forbid if you came over and touched the dog's buggy. You know, he would attack you and drag his body across the floor. Get away from my buggy. So with that, I taught him how to walk. I got him out of diapers and peeing himself. And you know what? It brought back his dignity. So I fostered him for a year, and then he went back to Sue, and then he went to somebody else that is working with his biting, an older woman that likes him. He's a hard dog to like, but he was cute. He was cute and fluffy. And Eric actually has two little dogs like that. He has two little fluffy, little brown little dogs. They're very cute. So I have been, you know, growing more and with Eric. And yeah, so how people have been reacting, I've been getting a lot of hits from Facebook. I've been putting it out on Facebook. And in the last couple of days, I've been getting all kinds of people that really like White Lightning and Grifter. You know, and more songs, and women are writing me on Messenger and saying that I touch their lives and that they really love my song and they love my singing. And so that's really good. And Eric gave me that advice to go and put it out like on Facebook and promote it that way, because it's hard right now to get any promotion, you know, with COVID and stuff. What do, right?
Yes.
So
yeah, well,
yeah.
You're an inspiration, and never give up on your dreams. I mean, this is your, you know, solo album, right? And is there a favorite song that you like? Because I like
my
White
favorite
Lightning.
song on that actually CD is Robin Song.
Robin Song.
Robin Song, I adore. I wrote it for Robin Spurgeon, who had Psychord Studios in Vancouver. And Robin was an amazing man. And I actually hooked him up with the woman he ended up living the rest of his life with, my friend Joyce. She was an older woman. Her husband died, and her and Robin were the same age. And they just totally hit it off, and they stayed together and they moved in together. And Robin really changed my life because what he did for me. And what he did was he recorded every song I ever wrote in the studio, and one night. And he said, Mary, get on your acoustic guitar and do this recording. So yeah, I recorded all those songs. So when I moved into this little place here, this townhouse, after being in my house, I had all the stuff in the basement to go through because I had way poundage of stuff. And I started finding my tapes. And I went over to Heritage Films and I got them digitized onto a listening system that I could put into the computer. And there were my old songs. And that I'd done at Psychord, and White Lightning was one, and Robin Song, and yeah.
Oh, wow. How did it make you feel when you were?
I knew right then and there, this is what I'm supposed to do. I listened to those old songs and I went, oh my God, I can't believe these have never been released in Canada. I can't believe I've never gone there. You know, like,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, wow. And I mean, like how would your husband, you know, Doug, what would he he would be
He'd be
awesome.
so proud. I felt like he's been over this whole thing. And when the first interview I had, I wasn't quite as ready for the radio, CKNW and stuff. And it was at dinner time when people were driving home. And I burst into tears even talking about Doug. I lost it for a moment because I'm not used to doing music without Doug, you know.
Hmm.
I'm not used to having that, time without hearing that guitar in the house. My husband was constantly playing guitar and he constantly played bass. If he knew he was going to do like the Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, he would learn that whole track for Donny Osmond's show when he played that off by heart. He didn't need the music stand. And the guy came up to him when he was in his gig for that and said, Doug, you have to put the music book up. And Doug goes, I don't need it. And he goes, it's for the look. It's for
Oh,
the look. And Doug was like, oh, okay. Because he didn't need it. He had that kind of a brain. And Andreas Schold, actually, the guy that my producer, he is like that. He's got a brain like that when it comes to music. He's a genius. And he can play anything. So I really lucked out to have Andreas that he took me and worked with me, and could hear that there was something there that he could work with me because he works with all the top people and didn't even have to put one speck of time with me. And he put all his time and now he puts a lot of all his time into me and my project. This one especially coming up, he's working on that with me, and we're kick butt action in it.
I can't wait. We're gonna have to do another interview.
Yeah, and I'm using the same guys, Norm Fisher and Pat Stewart and Daryl Havers and Andreas on guitars. And Andreas is producing it, and and I'm going back to Soren Longqvist and at Down Under Studios. So we're just going to try and kick it out of the ballpark again.
I'd like to talk to you about, you're also an author. And tell
Yeah.
us about that. I have your book.
Well, this was a book that I wrote with my girlfriend Shannon Lober. And together we were at a part in our lives where we needed something to do. So we would meet and I would research, and we went to England together and Ireland. And we went to the Trinity Library and we went to Lambeth Palace Library. And so we did quite a bit of research and traveled around a little bit there. And we made all kinds of discoveries about Napoleon and found some of his letters that he had written to Josephine. And our book is Wise Woman's Cookery, Food, Sex, Magic, and Merriment. And I've done a little YouTube blog for it on recipes and stories from the past. And we dress up in medieval gear. And yeah, it's little stories of sensuality and magic and the way people lived in the past with food and how they made little liqueurs and just really fun things. And it's the kind of thing that you could put on a coffee table, and if you're bored, there's one little story, just a quick little story that you can read about how much Napoleon was in love so much um, with Josephine, and she wasn't really an empress because she really wasn't divorced, and she had other children, and he loved her. He loved her at all cost. He loved her, and just the letter he wrote to her about what a spell she cast on him. And when he was in battle, he carried that letter in his chest, in his heart, and he would bring it out and he would look at it, at her words, and he couldn't wait to get back to her.
So romantic. It's, and I've been, is there a favorite recipe in here? I like the carrots. There's carrots.
Oh, they were fantastic, the carrots. Oh my God, they're so tasty. I like the Mediterranean stew. And my girlfriend Shannon always made that recipe, and it's a very old recipe.
Mm,
And yeah, it's just delicious. It's the most delicious food. And it's heartwarming food, comfort
mhm.
food. A lot of
Yes,
it is comfort food.
I love it.
So, and it's an all vegetable dish and nice and tasty. Yummo in the tummo.
Well, where can people get a copy of your book?
I'm not really selling it anymore, but if
Oh,
you can find it online, that's why
okay.
it's very important for you to keep your copy because
Okay.
it's actually been turning into a cult book now. So maybe in a couple years, I might put it out. I
Okay.
might put it out again. I have a bunch in the basement. I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of them in the basement. But it ended up being too much, cost too much. It cost $22 to mail.
Yes.
So at that rate, how am I going to make money with that book?
Mhm.
But once
Mhm.
people would get the book, they loved their book and
Yeah.
they would write me back and go, Mary, I had my book in my house and somebody stole it out. They took it. Like,
Oh,
so, I'd go, well, okay, I'll just send it to you. I wouldn't charge them anything. I just send it because I get it. And they were so upset. Mary, somebody stole my book. It was on the coffee table and, they took off with my book. So it'd be like, darn.
yeah. Well, let's talk about your jewelry. I mean, I'm wearing your one of your earrings, and I love them. Like, you mentioned that you started jewelering way back, but can you tell us how it began exactly?
I started doing jewelry when my son was about 2. He's
Mm,
44 years old now. And so it's been 42 years. And I started it going to yard sales in Kitsilano. And I put my son in a buggy, and it started out, I needed dishes. I was living on my own in a basement suite, and I needed dishes, and I needed pots and pans and cutlery. And I started to notice the necklaces, the old granny necklaces, from the 40s and the 30s that were all like pearls, all the different
mhm.
sizes, but in orange and purple and green, you know, yellow, black, and just different beads. And I'd see a necklace and I think that's really cool. I think I could do something with that. And that's when I started to make jewelry. And I would take it around to stores like Sequels at Broadway and McDonald. And that girl, she would take them, I'd sell them at that time for about $2.50 a pair. And then she would take them and sell them for $7 and $8 and make it on top. But because I bought a necklace that was 25 cents, I could do that. And
Mm.
I still made money. So if she took 50 pairs of earrings from me, um, I would make money and I'd have my little bit of grocery money, and that's how I started. And then I always kept doing it. And when I moved to West Vancouver, I would go to Eagle Harbor. They would have an outdoor fair, and I would take my jewelry there. And I noticed a lot of the women in West Vancouver that came there always bought my jewelry. And then
Mm.
they would take my card and phone me at home and say, I lost one earring. Do you
Oh
have
no.
another one? And so I'd be replacing earrings because they would lose them. And people loved my jewelry so much that they would get back in touch with me and say, I need to replace that one earring. I have to have these earrings. I wear them all the time. They're very comfortable. I even sometimes fall asleep in my earrings and they
Yeah.
don't bug me at all,
Yeah.
So I like earrings that I do sometimes very long. It depends. Sometimes I can be inspired to do that. But a lot of earrings, I just want one bead. And it
Mm,
has to be a really classic bead. The bead that you're wearing today is a totally classic bead. That
mm,
bead is classic. And when you feel it, it's got such a soft, beautiful feeling. You can just rub that
mm.
bead and it feels really good to rub.
Yeah.
So a lot of my stuff you can do that with, you can feel it and it feels really good, you
No,
know?
I love it. I love my earrings and thank you. And is there anything else you like to add, Mary?
Well, I would just like to say thanks to Eric Alper and anyone else like you who actually noticed me. Like, thank you for that, for noticing my music. And I'm on Spotify and down you can download on that. I'm on iTunes, I'm on Bandcamp and Amazon Music, and
Yeah.
Spotify is good. Like if you want to hear me on the radio, I'm on that. And hopefully I'm going to grow this year coming up with this next CD and that's coming out. And hopefully I'll be seeing you again and I'll be able to send you another load of earrings that you can wear for the next year and get your fashion out of.
Yes.
I'll send you also some of these
Oh,
ones
I
here.
love them. Yes.
I have lots of these. These are very comfortable. They're big, but they're very comfortable. And they're very it. I like them.
They're
They're very
classy.
it.
They're, yes, it. And I want you back on the show and we can talk about, your next album. And it was such a pleasure talking to you, Mary. You're so inspiring and you're a testimonial. And yeah, so I really appreciate your time. And your music is for the viewers. We're going to do a contest too. So stay tuned.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And I'd like to also thank Valley Hennel for helping me. She's always watched Wildflower, the song. She's taken care of it for probably over 41 years.
Wow.
So, yes, thank you to Valley. I love you, Valley.
And I love the song Wildflower. It's such a classic. Yeah. Thank you, Mary.
We're gonna fall.